Welcome to our channel, where real American crime cases broken down clearly and honestly. Relax and watch us uncover up to 4 or more cases uncovered in this one video you are about to start watching. Welcome to American Crime Vault. In the shadowy world of espionage, the most dangerous spies aren't the ones lurking in dark alleys. They're the ones standing right beside you, smiling, shaking your hand, and wearing the uniform of a trusted ally. This is the story of one such man, a celebrated general who reached the pinnacle of his nation's military, only to become its most devastating traitor. His name was Dmitry Polyakov, a decorated Soviet military intelligence officer, a general in the GRU, and for over 2 decades, the CIA's most valuable asset inside the Kremlin. Codenamed Top Hat, Bourbon, and Rome, his story is a chilling reminder that the greatest threats often come from within. How does a man showered with honors by the Soviet Union, a man entrusted with its deepest secrets, decide to betray everything he supposedly stood for? It wasn't for money, though the CIA offered him plenty. It wasn't for a life of luxury in the West. Polyakov's motivations were far more personal, rooted in a profound disillusionment that began during World War II. As a young officer, he witnessed the sheer incompetence and brutality of Stalin's regime, seeing countless soldiers sent to their deaths for political pride rather than tactical necessity. This seed of doubt was planted early, but it was a personal tragedy that would make it grow into an unshakable resolve. Years later, while stationed in New York, Polyakov's infant son fell gravely ill. He pleaded with his superiors in Moscow for a rare, specialized American medical treatment that could save his child's life. The request was coldly denied. The Soviet bureaucracy saw no value in making an exception for one general's son. The boy died, and with him died any remaining loyalty Dmitry Polyakov had to the Soviet system. In that moment of profound grief and anger, he saw the regime not as a protector of its people, but as a callous, inhuman machine. His war was no longer against the West. It was against the very government he served. In 1961, Polyakov made his move. He walked into an FBI office and volunteered his services, a move of almost suicidal bravery. He wasn't a disgruntled junior officer. He was a rising star in the GRU. The Americans were skeptical at first. Was he a double agent, sent to feed them disinformation? It was a huge risk, but the intelligence he offered was too good to ignore. He began passing secrets, classified documents, and the names of Soviet spies operating in the West. He did it all with meticulous care, using dead drops, coded signals, and invisible ink, like something straight out of a spy novel. But for Polyakov, this was deadly real. One mistake, one slip-up, and his life was over. For the next 20 years, Dmitry Polyakov lived a life of unbelievable tension. By day, he was a model Soviet general, attending high-level meetings, reviewing top-secret strategies, and training new generations of intelligence officers. He was respected, admired, and completely trusted. By night, he was the CIA's eyes and ears inside the GRU. The information he provided was pure gold. He exposed more than 1,500 Soviet agents across the globe, including dozens of moles buried deep within Western intelligence agencies. He handed over volumes of technical data on Soviet missile systems, giving the United States a crucial edge in the arms race. He even provided insights into the growing rift between the Soviet Union and China, allowing American presidents to exploit that division and reshape global politics. Former CIA Director James Woolsey would later say that Polyakov's information was so vital, it helped the West win the Cold War. He wasn't just a source, he was a strategic partner. He didn't just give away secrets. He helped the CIA understand how the Soviet military mind worked. He would often add his own analysis, explaining the context and significance of the documents he was smuggling out. He saw himself as a Russian patriot, not a traitor. He believed he was saving his country from a corrupt and dangerous leadership that was steering it toward disaster. He once told his CIA handler, "I am not doing this for you. I am doing this for my country." He wanted to prevent a nuclear war that he felt the reckless Soviet leadership might stumble into. Living this double life took an incredible toll. Every knock on the door, every unexpected summons from a superior could have been the end. He had a family, a wife and children who knew nothing of his secret war. He had to maintain the facade of a loyal communist, celebrating Soviet holidays and denouncing the evils of capitalism, all while systematically dismantling the very intelligence apparatus he helped build. He turned down offers of exfiltration, the chance to escape to the United States with a new identity and a fortune. He insisted on staying in Moscow, where he believed he could do the most good, or perhaps the most damage. He was a man on a mission, and he was willing to see it through to the bitter end. So how did it all unravel? For 2 decades, Polyakov was the ghost in the machine, a phantom the KGB hunted relentlessly but could never catch. The Soviets knew they had a high-level leak, a super mole, but they couldn't pinpoint the source. The trail always went cold. The end for Dmitry Polyakov came not from a brilliant piece of KGB detective work, but from betrayal by one of the very people he had tried to help, an American. In 1985, a disgruntled, cash-strapped CIA officer named Aldrich Ames walked into the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., and offered to sell secrets for money. One of the first names he gave up was Dmitry Polyakov. The information from Ames was a bombshell for the KGB. It was the missing piece of the puzzle they had been searching for years. They finally had their man, but they didn't move immediately. They watched him, gathered more evidence, and ensured there was no mistake. Then, one day in 1986, the trap was sprung. Polyakov, now retired but still a figure of immense respect, was arrested. The man who had been the CIA's greatest asset was now in the hands of the KGB's most brutal interrogators. For over a year, he was questioned at the infamous Lefortovo prison in Moscow. The details of his interrogation are classified, but we know he never broke in a way that compromised ongoing CIA operations. He admitted to his actions, but refused to express regret. In his mind, he had done what was necessary. In 1987, he was put on trial for high treason. It was a secret military tribunal, hidden from the public eye. The verdict was a foregone conclusion: guilty. The sentence, death. On March 15, 1988, General Dmitry Polyakov was executed with a single gunshot to the back of the head. The Soviet government didn't even announce his death for another 2 years, a final act of trying to erase the memory of their greatest embarrassment. The story of Dmitry Polyakov is more than just a spy thriller. It's a profound human drama about conviction, betrayal, and the immense cost of ideology. Was he a hero or a traitor? The answer depends entirely on which side of the Iron Curtain you were on. To the CIA, he was a legend, a man whose courage may have prevented World War III. To the Kremlin, he was the ultimate betrayer, a snake they had nurtured in their own ranks. His legacy is a complex one. He was a product of a system he grew to despise, and he used his position within that system to tear it down from the inside. He was the General Shadow, a man who lived and died in a world of secrets, whose actions shaped the very course of modern history. His story serves as a stark warning to those in power. Trust is a fragile thing, and the most loyal-seeming servant might just be the one holding the dagger. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story as fascinating as I did, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. See you next time. Thanks for watching once again. Can't wait to share the next true crime story from somewhere else in the world. Stay tuned. In the quiet, fluorescent-lit world of corporate finance, numbers are supposed to tell a story of truth and order. But what happens when the storyteller is a liar? In the heart of a bustling city, Inside a skyscraper of glass and steel, one man held the keys to a financial kingdom. His name was Arthur Finch, and for over a decade, he was more than just an accountant. He was the company's most trusted guardian. Colleagues saw him as meticulous, dependable, almost invisible in his quiet dedication. He was the first to arrive, the last to leave. His desk was a fortress of ledgers and spreadsheets, each one a testament to his unwavering precision. No one ever questioned Arthur. Why would they? Profits were up, shareholders were happy, and the auditors, year after year, gave the company a clean bill of health. They saw what Arthur wanted them to see: a perfectly balanced set of books, a symphony of numbers playing a tune of prosperity. But beneath this serene surface, a different story was unfolding. Arthur wasn't just balancing the books. He was orchestrating a masterpiece of deception. It started small, almost by accident. A tiny discrepancy, a rounding error he could have fixed but chose to exploit. He created a ghost account, a digital phantom that existed only in the deepest, darkest corners of the company's server. At first, it was a few dollars here, a few hundred there. Pocket change for a multi-billion-dollar corporation. He told himself it was a loan, a temporary fix for a personal bind, money he would pay back. But the ease of it was intoxicating. The system he had built his career on, the very system designed to prevent fraud, became his personal playground. With a few keystrokes, he could move money with the grace of a phantom, leaving no ripples, no alarms. Over the years, Arthur's ambition grew. The ghost account, once a simple ledger, evolved into a complex web of shell corporations, offshore holdings, and untraceable digital wallets. He wasn't just stealing anymore. He was building an empire in the shadows. He learned the auditors' patterns, their checklist mentality. He knew exactly what they would look for, so he built a flawless facade. He created counterfeit invoices, forged signatures, and generated reports so convincing they were works of art. To his colleagues, he was still boring old Arthur, the guy who brought his own lunch and talked about his stamp collection. They had no idea he was living a double life, dining at the world's finest restaurants, collecting rare cars, and owning properties on 3 different continents, all under a carefully constructed alias. He was a ghost in his own life, a master of misdirection. The game was exhilarating. Each successful audit, each quarterly report that passed without a hitch, was a victory. He was smarter than all of them: the Ivy League auditors, the seasoned executives, the high-tech security systems. He was a modern-day magician, and his trick was making millions of dollars vanish into thin air. He constructed a parallel financial universe, a mirror image of the company's real finances, but with one key difference. In Arthur's universe, a significant portion of the revenue was diverted directly to him. He manipulated sales figures, inflated asset values, and hid liabilities in a labyrinth of subledgers so convoluted that even he sometimes had trouble navigating them. He was playing with fire, but he was so good at it. He started to believe he was fireproof. The risk became the reward. But empires, especially those built on lies, have a tendency to crumble. The first crack in Arthur's fortress wasn't a clever auditor or a suspicious executive. It was a new hire, a junior analyst named Maria, fresh out of college, armed with a degree in data science and a relentless curiosity. Maria didn't see numbers as static figures on a page. She saw them as data points, patterns, and stories. While reviewing historical sales data for a routine market projection, she noticed something odd. A tiny anomaly, a statistical improbability that everyone else had overlooked for years. A series of transactions, all for similar, large, round amounts, were consistently being coded to a single, obscure cost center. When she tried to trace the source, she hit a digital wall. The data was there one moment and gone the next, rerouted, scrubbed clean. For anyone else, it would have been a dead end, a system glitch. But for Maria, it was a puzzle. She started digging in her own time, working late into the night, fueled by coffee and a gut feeling that something was deeply wrong. She wrote custom scripts to pull raw data logs, bypassing the polished reports that everyone else relied on. She was looking for ghosts in the machine, and she found them. She discovered fragments of deleted files, echoes of transactions that had been systematically erased. It was like following a trail of digital breadcrumbs that someone had tried desperately to sweep away. The patterns she uncovered were faint, but they were there, pointing to a sophisticated, long-term manipulation of the company's financial records. She didn't know who was behind it or why, but she knew she was onto something big, something dangerous. Maria knew she couldn't go to her direct supervisor. What if they were involved? Who could she trust? The deception was so deep, so woven into the fabric of the company, that anyone could be part of it. She remembered a guest lecture from a forensic accountant during her senior year of college, a woman who specialized in uncovering corporate fraud. Taking a huge risk, Maria reached out to her, laying out her findings in a coded, anonymous email. The forensic accountant, intrigued and recognizing the hallmarks of a master manipulator, advised her on how to gather evidence without alerting the perpetrator. It became a silent, high-stakes chess match. On one side, Arthur, the king of his digital castle, confident in his defenses. On the other, an unknown challenger, a rookie analyst who was slowly, methodically dismantling his kingdom from the inside. The pressure on Arthur was mounting, but not from the source he would have expected. The company was preparing for a major acquisition, a deal that would put its finances under an unprecedented level of scrutiny. A new team of external auditors, famous for their aggressive, no-stone-unturned approach, was being brought in. For the first time in years, Arthur felt a cold knot of fear tighten in his stomach. His system was brilliant, but was it perfect? Could it withstand this new level of inspection? He started working longer hours, not just maintaining the fraud, but actively trying to unwind parts of it, to bury it even deeper. He became paranoid, irritable. The quiet, invisible accountant was starting to show cracks in his own facade. His colleagues just thought he was stressed about the merger. They had no idea he was fighting to keep a multi-million-dollar secret from imploding. The day the new auditors arrived, the office atmosphere was tense. They moved with a purpose that unnerved everyone. They weren't just checking boxes, they were hunting. Meanwhile, Maria, guided by her mentor, had compiled a dossier of irrefutable evidence. Data logs showing the creation and deletion of phantom accounts and analysis of the IP addresses used to access the system during off hours, all pointing back to a single workstation. Arthur's workstation. She timed her move perfectly. As the auditors were setting up in the main conference room, a secured package was delivered to the lead auditor. Inside was a single USB drive and a one-line note. Check raw server logs for cost center 7B. Compare against published financials from the last decade. The lead auditor, a man who had seen everything, was initially skeptical. Anonymous tips were common, but the specificity of this one caught his attention. He plugged the drive into a secure, air-gapped laptop. What he saw made his blood run cold. It was a step-by-step digital map of the biggest, most elegant financial fraud he had ever witnessed. It wasn't just theft. It was a complete rewriting of corporate history. The numbers didn't just fail to add up. They told two entirely different stories. One for the public and one hidden in the code, meticulously documented on Maria's USB drive. The paper trail hadn't vanished overnight. It had been masterfully hidden in plain sight, disguised as data noise. The endgame was swift and brutal. The auditors locked down the entire financial department. Federal agents, tipped off by the auditing firm, arrived before the end of the day. They walked into the office and headed straight for Arthur's desk. There was no dramatic chase, no shouted denials. Arthur just looked up from his screen, a flicker of surprise followed by a wave of quiet resignation. The man who had built an empire on lies didn't have a single one left. He had been so focused on the complexity of his scheme, on outsmarting the system, that he never saw the real threat. a single, honest person who still believed that numbers should tell the truth. In the aftermath, the company was thrown into chaos. The stock plummeted, executives were fired, and the brand was tarnished. But from the ashes, a new story emerged. The story of Maria, the junior analyst who brought down a giant. She wasn't seeking glory. She was just doing her job, following her curiosity to its logical conclusion. The story of Arthur Finch serves as a chilling reminder that the greatest security threat isn't always an outside attacker, but can be the trusted insider, the one no one ever suspects. It shows that in our increasingly digital world, the lines between truth and deception can be blurred with a single keystroke. And it proves that sometimes, all it takes to unravel the most complex lie is one person brave enough to ask a simple question and determined enough to find the answer. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. Thanks for watching once again. Can't wait to share the next true crime story from somewhere else in the world. Stay tuned. Imagine a skyscraper, a testament to ambition, reaching for the clouds. Now imagine that entire structure, all the glass, all the steel, all the power held within, balanced on the tip of a single pen. This isn't a metaphor. This is the story of Alastair Vance, a man who built a global empire on a foundation of lies, and how it all came crashing down because of a single, forged signature. Alastair Vance wasn't born into wealth. He was the son of a factory worker, a kid with big dreams and an even bigger chip on his shoulder. He watched the titans of industry from afar, not with envy, but with a burning desire to surpass them. He was charismatic, brilliant, and possessed an almost hypnotic ability to make people believe in him. His first company, a small tech startup, was a moderate success, but moderate was never enough for Alastair. He wanted to build a legacy, a dynasty. The opportunity came in the form of a brilliant but reclusive inventor named Dr. Elias Thorne. Thorne had developed a revolutionary energy storage technology, something that could power entire cities. But he was an academic, not a businessman. He was wary of the corporate world and its ruthless nature. Alastair, with his smooth talk and grand visions, was the only one who managed to get a meeting with him. For months, Alastair courted Thorne, promising to honor his vision, to use the technology for the betterment of humanity. Thorne was slowly won over. They drafted a partnership agreement, a 50-50 split. Thorne would retain control of the core technology, while Alastair would handle the business side. The document was ready, waiting for 2 signatures. But on the day of the signing, Elias Thorne had a sudden change of heart. He called Alastair, expressing his doubts, saying he needed more time to consider the ethical implications. For Alastair, this was a disaster. He had already secured investors, promised deliverables, and painted a picture of a future with him at the helm. Delay wasn't an option. So, in the quiet of his office, with the city lights twinkling below, Alastair Vance made a decision that would define his life. He took a pen, and with a steady hand that betrayed no tremor, he practiced Elias Thorne's signature over and over again. Then, he forged it on the final page of the partnership agreement. With that single stroke of ink, Vance Global was born. The company's rise was meteoric. The new energy technology, now wholly under Alastair's control, disrupted industries across the globe. Vance Global built power plants, manufactured electric vehicles, and developed consumer electronics that everyone had to have. Alastair became a global icon, the visionary CEO on the cover of every business magazine. He gave inspiring speeches about innovation and integrity, all while harboring a secret that could obliterate everything he had built. What about Elias Thorne? He tried to fight back, of course. He claimed the signature was a forgery, that the company was stolen from him. But who would believe a reclusive, unknown inventor against the beloved billionaire Alastair Vance? Alastair's legal team, the best money could buy, painted Thorne as a disgruntled former collaborator, a man consumed by jealousy. They produced the signed document, authenticated by experts who, perhaps influenced by Vance's reputation, saw what they were expected to see. Thorne lost in court. Defeated and broke, he disappeared from public life, a ghost haunting the empire that should have been his. For 20 years, Alistair Vance lived like a king. He was untouchable. He had wealth beyond imagination, a beautiful family, and the respect of the world. But the lie was always there, a quiet hum beneath the noise of his success. He became paranoid, trusting no one. Every new deal, every public appearance, was a tightrope walk over a canyon of exposure. The beginning of the end came from an unlikely source, a young, ambitious journalist named Maya Cho. She was working on a profile of Vance, a puff piece about his incredible journey. But Maya was thorough. She had a knack for finding the loose threads that others missed. While researching Vance Global's origins, she stumbled upon the old court case involving Elias Thorne. Everyone had dismissed it, but something about it felt wrong to her. She started digging, spending late nights poring over old documents and interviewing long-forgotten figures from the company's early days. Her investigation eventually led her to a nursing home in a quiet, remote town. There, she found Elias Thorne. He was old and frail, but his mind was still sharp. He told her his story, the same one he had told the courts decades ago. But this time, someone was listening. Thorne gave Maya a box of his old research notes. Buried inside was a letter Alistair had sent him just before the alleged signing. In it, Alistair was practically begging Thorne to reconsider, acknowledging Thorne's desire to delay the partnership. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it directly contradicted the official story that the signing was a mutually celebrated event. The real breakthrough came from a disgruntled former executive at Vance Global, a man Alistair had ruthlessly cast aside. He had always been suspicious about the company's founding. He told Maya about Vance's peculiar habit. For major deals, Alistair always used a specific vintage fountain pen, a gift from his father. It was his good luck charm. The executive even remembered seeing it on his desk the week the Thorne partnership was finalized. This was the key. Maya, with the help of a forensic document expert, took a closer look at the original partnership agreement. They analyzed the ink. The signature of Alistair Vance was written with the rare, specific ink from his vintage fountain pen. The signature of Elias Thorne, however, was written with a standard, commercially available ballpoint pen ink from that era. But more importantly, advanced analysis revealed microscopic differences in the pressure and flow of the two signatures, suggesting they were written at different times with different pens. But the final, undeniable proof came from Thorne's old lab. Hidden away was the original draft agreement Thorne himself had printed. On the last page, in the margins, he had doodled a nervous habit. The final, forged document, the one Alistair had used, was a clean copy. It lacked those doodles. Thorne had never even seen the final version he supposedly signed. Armed with this irrefutable evidence, Maya Cho published her story. It was an explosion. The article went viral, and the world was captivated by the tale of the stolen empire. The stock market reacted instantly. Vance Global's share price plummeted. Investors panicked. The board of directors, who had once worshipped Alistair, now saw him as a liability. The legal system, once Alistair's shield, became his sword of Damocles. Authorities reopened the case. Faced with overwhelming forensic evidence and public outcry, Alistair Vance's carefully constructed world crumbled. The man who had it all was arrested, his bespoke suit traded for a jumpsuit. The trial was a media circus. Alistair, stripped of his power and charisma, looked like a hollow man. He was convicted of fraud, forgery, and a host of other charges. The empire he built on a lie was dismantled, its assets sold off. The skyscraper, once a symbol of his power, was now a monument to his downfall. In the end, It wasn't a rival corporation or a market crash that brought him down. It was a piece of paper, a single forged signature, a 20-year-old lie that finally caught up to him. The story of Alistair Vance is a chilling reminder that no matter how high you build, a foundation of deceit will always, eventually, give way. The truth, like gravity, is a force that cannot be denied forever. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible true stories. We'll see you in the next video.